right. Well, I think we'll get started. There might be one or two more that tune in the next few minutes, but
okay, great.
Want to say maybe welcome to the Teach Climate Sonoma County share out and it's been a while, but the idea is to really share projects and experiences that teachers are doing in the classroom and for others to get inspired. And before we get started, so my name's Tor Allen. I run a nonprofit based in Sebastopol called the Rahus Institute, and have done a solar schoolhouse program for a long time, and just really interested in sort of nurturing the climate solution type of lessons for schools to adapt in the classroom. So Noah and Kamala, would one of you like to unmute and say hello and tell us about yourself?
Yeah, thank you for reaching out. Sorry, I'm not in a place where I can use the camera right now, but in a little bit I will be getting to my destination. But yeah, I'm Noah and I am 16, and me and some friends run a little nonprofit project where we go into some Sebastopol and Sonoma County local schools and do climate presentations. So I'm excited to hear what you guys are doing, get some inspiration, because we're doing some presentations pretty soon and we're looking for like new content and stuff. So thank you.
Okay, thanks. That was kind of
Hi, I'm Kamala Brown. I'm a science teacher at Elsie Allen in Santa Rosa, and Annie Scully sent me this. I don't know who knows her. Anyway,
I got connected with her. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so she sent this to me, and it was very timely, because I've just been thinking about, I've been thinking about how to teach climate for years, but never felt like I've done a very good job. I've never been happy with just never been happy with anything that I've done. So I've been thinking about, I've just been like, I want to figure out some project. I teach earth science and I teach living earth, and I'll be teaching physics next year. So yeah, I just, it's like the thing that I feel like I should be teaching well. And, I don't want to, I'm very cognizant of not leaving my students like hopeless, right? So what you're saying about solutions, I think that, that's really the key. And so, yeah, I'd love to, I don't know that I have a lot to share, but I would love to hear what all of you have to say.
Yeah. And I'll just sort of, that is kind of the essence of it, is if you just teach about climate change and global warming and the impacts, then you leave your students kind of pretty down. And so we've been trying to figure out ways to focus on climate solutions, how to engage and empower the students so they feel some hope. And there are some other lessons we'll sort of share after Dan's presentation, but yeah, and if we don't get to everything, I'll share some more with you to sort of feed your plans for what you do with your science class. So Dan, go for it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kamala and Noah, for coming, and yeah, thank you, Tor, for putting this on. So yeah, my name's Dan Karbousky. I'm a high school math teacher at Sonoma Academy. And I've got a little slideshow here just so I don't forget all my thoughts, but I also am, like you all, trying to be part of the climate solution and looking for ways to do that. And in addition to teaching math at Sonoma Academy, I also have like little kind of weekly little spots throughout my schedule where I work with students on environmental projects. And this is one of the environmental projects that we're currently working on, creating idle-free schools. And I'm going to explain what all that means. So let's see if I can keep going. All right. So we already did introductions and we need to do that. But yeah, so one of the little slots where I work on environmental projects with students is this period on Wednesday afternoons. We have a short academic day on Wednesday afternoons, and in the afternoon, we work on impact projects. And the only criteria for these impact projects are that they positively impact the community in some way. And that could be our school community, or it could be like the greater Santa Rosa, Sonoma County community. And so this project is just taking place like once a week. We have about an hour and 45 minutes to work on it. And like I said, it's called the Idle Free Schools Project. All right, I don't even already did our introductions there. So where's this coming from? So like one of the things was, me just wanting to take climate, take action on climate. And I was kind of like, I was like, man, I want to be part of the climate, and like, what am I doing in my personal life, and trying to do, trying to like cut down eating meat and all these like little, personal carbon footprint things. And that's a whole different topic. We won't go there, but, I'm sitting around feeling bad about driving my gas powered car, but more like upsetting is like, I'm just seeing people, I'm trying to like really cut down on my personal footprint, and I'm like, I'm going to bike to school, and I'm like not going to idle for a long time. And, I'll carpool where I can, all these things. And then I see people like in their cars, just like on their cell phones, just like idling for, unbelievable amounts of time. And I'm just like, are you not aware of the climate crisis? And again, personal footprints is very much like a drop in the bucket. And like, there's a lot bigger fish to tackle, or problems to tackle. But anyways, it made me realize that people are just somewhat oblivious to like the crisis we're in, and like not acting, their behaviors are not, acting correspondingly. So I was like, I got to do something about this. This is really bugging me. And in addition to that, so at our school, we do not have a track. And so when it's track season, we actually go down to LC Allen a couple of days a week, Kamala, and we use your track. After your track team is done with it. And during the cross country season, we practice a couple days at Spring Lakes, but the other days when we're not at Spring Lake, or we're not at LC Allen for the cross country and the track seasons, we are practicing in our parking lot. We're running around the parking lot. We're doing laps. We're doing hill repeats, all those kinds of things. And cars in our parking lot, we're just idling, and our kids are literally just running through the fumes. Of course, we can't see them, but like they are like, cars are just idling in their parking spots or waiting to pick up their sons or daughters, and we're running right through these fumes. And so it was just another, motivation for me to be just like, we really got to do something about this. Yep. And so I was like, hey, I should use that impact period that I have every Wednesday afternoon to try and get something going. So I even told some of the students who are on the running teams, the cross country and the track team, I was like, hey, like, this is something I want to take on. So one of them joined the impact group, and then another student who's not part of the running teams, they also jumped in. So we did some research. It was the first, in the fall semester, it was just two students and me, so three of us. And yeah, we started looking at it. We're like, okay, of course, car emissions contribute to greenhouse gases. Car emissions are also harmful to people's lungs, particularly youth. There was articles about that where it's like, it's bad for everybody, but particular people who their lungs are developing. Idling also is like largely unnecessary and actually can be damaging to your car. One of the things I think that people idle, why they idle is because they think like it takes, more gas, or it's bad for your car to restart it and things like that. So they leave their car running. And so we did a ton of research into all these like kind of myths that people are under the impression of. And I'm going to show you what we found. But so we just looked into why people idle. And we also found that there are already movements in the United States and outside of the United States. For example, I was just reading an article about how in Canada, they're trying to tackle this problem, that like cities are putting ordinances and to try and stop idling in cities and in counties. And so this is not unique. Like it's popping up all over the place. And so I was searching around and looking for like a way to implement this with the group. This was actually in the summer before we started this past fall. And and I'm sorry, this project has been going since we started this current school year. And I found that the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, actually created a toolkit that guides schools to become idle free. So I'm just gonna click on this and hopefully it. Okay, can I just get thumbs up? Can you see what I'm showing? It's the EPA website. For some kind of a verbal yes. You good, Tor?
Yes.
Thanks. Okay.
Yes, I could see it.
I'll let you speak for the group. Okay, so yeah, so the EPA created this idle-free schools toolkit, and what it is basically is just a step-by-step program that a group of students led by a teacher could go through so that they get their school to be idle-free. And just some of so they talk about like, what is an idle-free school? It's basically when parents and people who are picking up their sons or daughters, when they are waiting to pick them up, that they are, idling as little as possible. They talk about like why it's bad, and they talk about not only how it's a greenhouse gas thing, but it's also harmful for lungs because of air toxins. They talk about how you can use it, and basically it's what I just said. It's how a teacher, leads a group of students, and they do this. And so they give you all these different tools right here, and like for how to get this going at any school. And I'll just quickly just summarize. I'll click on the recommended schedule here, and we kind of followed this, but not to a T, but that's fine. I think you get the idea that, we're just kind of following the idea of what the EPA was trying to put forth. And yeah, here it is. So basically in the early part of the school year, and so this is actually pretty timely that we're talking about this now, because if anybody wanted to do this at their school, they could start this next school year. So in like the beginning of the school year, early to mid-September, you go out and you take observations in your parking lot, and you try and do it really discreetly. Don't let people know that you're doing it. And you just want to just see how much cars are idling, and you want to see, and figure out, on average, how long are they idling? And so we did this, and I'm going to show you our results in a video a little bit later. But the reason you don't want to tell anyone you're doing it, because if you tell people, then they start to change their behavior. So you do it before you let anyone know. Then later in the fall, you tell the whole school, you tell the parents, the student body, everybody, you say like, hey, we're trying to make this campaign, and look at the results that we already have gathered earlier. And that's part of getting the word out. I'm not going to go through every single little detail here, but then, yeah, you make it public, and you like hang up signs around school, and you do a driver contact event. Maybe it's just like a little thank you for not idling in the parking lot kind of thing. And you kind of just make it public. You might maybe do it at an all school assembly where you talk about like, this is what we observed, and here's the reasons why we should not be doing these kinds of things. And then later, and we have yet to do this now, is do your post-campaign observations and see if there's any difference between the before and after. And then annually, you just want to remind your school that you're an idle-free school. So yeah, and there's a lot more detail on the website here, on the EPA website, but that's kind of the general idea with this creating idle-free schools. We're we're 3/4 of the way done with the school year here. So let me just kind of tell you what we've done so far, and then where we're going with it. And actually this is very timely. So I was just talking about how we were doing all this research, and we found that it's not good. And then just this morning, I was listening to the news, and the American, I'm sorry, not the AMA, the ALA. I gotta fix that typo up there, but the American Lung Association just came out with an article this morning talking about how as we transition to electric vehicles and away from combustible engine vehicles, that people's lungs health are actually going to improve significantly, particularly people in low-income areas and minorities. But yeah, so this is kind of like, an act that we can do while we still have gas-powered cars running around in society, right? Once we move to electric vehicles, then this project becomes obsolete, which is a wonderful thing. But until we get there, this is just kind of an intermediate kind of remedy that we can take on. But anyway, so that just came out today. And so what we've done so far. So myself, small group of students, with the help of some other teachers, were also involved with this. We took observations in the beginning of the school year, and we summarized our observations. We took all the data, we gathered it up, and then we did, like I said, we did research. We found it's bad for the environment, it's bad for people's health, it's actually bad for cars, and it's bad for your wallet, which is particularly, an issue these days with gas prices being so high. Yep, we talked about why people are idling, and there were a couple legit reasons. If it's freezing outside, your car heater is not going to work if you're in a gas engine car, and so you might want to keep it idling for that reason. But most of the time here in Sonoma County, the weather's pretty nice. But then we also look at the illegitimate reasons, like the ones where people are worried about restarting their car being bad for it or using up so much gas doing that. So we looked into those reasons. We looked into what would happen if everybody did stop idling. And so I'm going to show you some numbers about if across the United States, if everybody stopped idling, it'd be a pretty significant impact. And then what we did is, with all the observations we did, all the research we did, we wrote a script. Okay, myself, those two students, we wrote a script. And then we turned it into an animated film, because we were like, we could go up in front of our school and just present this like in a PowerPoint format. Everyone's going to see it. Everyone's going to forget it in like 24 hours. So we're like, let's make an animated film, where it can live on a website in perpetuity, and then we could spread it out. You can send it to other people if we wanted. And so there was another teacher. He's our digital media teacher, and he helped us make this animated film. And so I was going to just share it with everybody. It's about 7.5 minutes, and it really just explains everything about what we found, the research, and like the kind of the call to action to stop idling. So if there's no objections, I'm going to go ahead and show everybody. Okay. So if you got popcorn, you can get it out now. Okay, so this lives on our school website. If you go to our sonomaacademy.org and you go to About and you go to Sustainability, there's a number of articles, but one of them here is making Sonoma Academy idle-free, and the video is right there on the website. So if you ever want to see this again, it's right there on the website. So here we go. Let's make it big. All right. And please let me know if you can't see it.
Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Casey.
And we'd like to talk to you about idling. What exactly is idling? In our study, we defined it as running a vehicle's engine when the vehicle is not in motion, most commonly observed when drivers are stopped at a red light or waiting while parked outside a business or residence or school.
Generally, if it's just one person idling for a short period of time, it isn't a problem and there isn't a huge impact. But if many vehicles are in one spot and all idling at the same time, for example, in school pickup or drop-off areas, a hotspot of exhaust pollution can be created.
This can result in many negative repercussions, such as emissions, pollution, student exposure to deadly toxins, damaged engines, and wasted fuel and money.
Our goal as the Idle-Free Schools Impact is to limit unnecessary idling on the Sonoma Academy campus, to reduce student exposure to toxic vehicle exhaust, and reduce emissions harmful to the climate.
Now, this doesn't mean we are pushing for no idling whatsoever. We understand that there are certain circumstances where idling might be necessary and respect those reasons.
We are also not going to be going around policing people and giving out tickets to people who are idling. But rather, we encourage idle-free behavior and hope it can be a sort of social norm ingrained into the SA culture, as one of the few net zero schools in the nation.
So, how prevalent is this problem of idling? Are only a few people doing it, or many? If you start paying attention, we think you'll see that it's quite common. The Idle-Free Schools Impact Group, however, wanted to quantitatively determine how much this is happening on SA's campus, particularly at the end of the school day during pickup time.
This fall, our impact group observed vehicles on 11 different days between mid-September to mid-October on the main entry road coming up to SA. These vehicles were mostly driven by parents waiting to pick up their kids while they were being let out from their last period classes. We'd also like to note that we did our best to not let these parents know that they were being observed, so that they didn't change their behavior.
We recorded if these vehicles were electric vehicles, hybrids, or had gas engines. If they're electric vehicles or hybrids, we immediately classified them as a not idling vehicle, since these types of vehicles generally do not produce emissions when standing still. For the gas engine vehicles, however, we noted if they were idling while they waited or not. So here's what we found.
Although there were certainly more than this, we were able to record on average 15.1 vehicles per day. Of those 15.1 vehicles, 11.8 or 78% of them ran off of gas, while 3.3 or 22% were either electric vehicles or hybrids.
Of the 11.8 gas vehicles, 8.7 or 76% of them idled their engines, while 3.1 or 24% did not. Although idling times range from 30 seconds to 32 minutes, the average idling time was 8.1 minutes.
Using gasoline consumption rates from the Environmental Protection Agency, if those 15.1 vehicles idled for 8.1 minutes every day for a year, they would collectively burn approximately 237 gallons of gas, which at a price of $4.69 per gallon would cost about $1,112. That equates to nearly 3,000 pounds of carbon dioxide emissions per year, a greenhouse gas that we already have too much of in our atmosphere. Whoa.
In fact, according to the U.S. Department of Energy, each year all passenger vehicles in the U.S. waste about 3 billion gallons of gasoline idling, which turns into about 30 million tons of carbon dioxide.
If all of those 250 million passenger vehicles stopped idling, that would be equivalent to taking 5 million gas-powered vehicles off the road. So let's spread the word. Stop unnecessary idling.
So why do people idle? Some people idle because they believe certain myths are things that used to be true, but are no longer relevant to modern cars. Let's take a look at a couple of these.
First, many people want to charge their electronic devices, like their cell phones, from their car's battery. When their engine is off, people are afraid that their recharging devices will drain the car's battery, and so they turn on the engine so that the alternator will recharge their car's battery. This seems like a logical solution, except for one important detail. Your car's battery has far more energy than what your cell phone will take from it. In fact, you could probably charge your phone 100 times off of a new fully charged car battery before it was drained. Now, of course, there are other things that are drawing energy from your car's battery, like your car lights, your dashboard readings, etc. But even still, you don't need to worry about draining your car's battery to recharge your phone. In fact, when you do start your car to drive away from where you are waiting, your alternator will not only recharge your car's battery then, but will actually recharge faster than when idling.
A second myth is that restarting your car uses more fuel than letting it idle. According to the Environmental Defense Fund, if you let your car idle for more than 10 seconds, you would actually save more gas by shutting it off and restarting it than letting it idle. Another myth that some people believe is that frequently restarting your engine will damage the car's battery and starting mechanism. You don't need to worry about this. Newer gasoline and diesel vehicles have much more durable starters and batteries than in the past and can handle the repeated restarting.
The last and probably most widespread misunderstanding is that your car's engine needs to warm up on cold mornings. People will go out to their car, start the engine to let it warm up, and wait several minutes before driving away. Most car manufacturers recommend, however, that even on the coldest of days, to start your car, and after no more than 30 seconds, drive off gently instead of idling. The engine will not only warm up faster by being at work, but the car's interior will warm up more quickly as well.
Okay, myth busting done. So here are some alternative solutions to idling. Instead of operating the heater or air conditioner, consider wearing a jacket when it's cold, or parking in the shade, or getting out of the car if it's hot.
Avoid going through the drive-thru when getting fast food, and instead park the car and go inside.
Finally, if you want to avoid the issue of idling altogether, consider buying an electric vehicle or hybrid if it's within your financial means.
In an effort to reduce idling on SA's campus, we will be putting up no idling signs in the parking lot, and we will also be sending out an email to the entire SA community, parents, staff, students, etc., summarizing this information.
Please help us in this cause by educating your friends and family about what you learned today. Thank you so much for your attention, and remember, you hold the key to being idle-free.
Slideshow. All right. Can you all see the slideshow now? Are we?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That was probably a lot of information. So why don't we just take a pause right there? And we're gonna do like, big group share out thing at the end. But are there any kind of like questions, comments, anything right now before I just keep blasting through PowerPoint slides here?
I had a question.
Yeah, please.
Well, so you know how you said the students did a little survey of the drop-off area, trying to be discreet and,
Right.
But then later in the video, it showed how many minutes they actually identify people idling and time them how long they were sitting there.
Yeah. And I also was out there doing the observations too, so I can speak firsthand. So it's quite an art to gather this information. And we did it, like we said, we did it for 11 days. And the first 3 days, like the observations were just like blah, 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 all over. And then we like really got down the process. So what you got to do when the car pulls up is you write down their license plate and you record the time. Okay. And then you just, what we would do is we would just go up next to the cars and kind of listen to see if they were idling. And if they were, then we just put like a yes next to their name. And if they were not, then we put a no. Or if they were an electric car or a hybrid, we put a no. So then all these cars start piling up at, like, our school gets out at 3:30. So all these cars are piling up between 3:15, 3:25, 3:29. And then the kids start coming out and they're getting in these cars. And then not only are those cars that just pulled up leaving, but then like people are, students, because we're high school, they're getting in their cars and they're driving away as well. So you have this flood of cars leaving, like all within 15 minutes. And so what you have to do is I would just like put like 3:30, and I just wrote down all the license plates of all the cars left at 3:30. And then at 3:31, I wrote down all the license plates of the cars, and then 3:32, et cetera, et cetera. And then what I would do is I would match the cars that had pulled up that were yeses, and then when they pulled out, and I just found the time difference between those. And then that we just assume, because it wasn't like cars were, doing laps in the parking lot. They were pretty much just waiting there. Kid got in, and then they would just drive away. So that's how we figured out how long those idling cars were idling for.
Yeah, that's tricky.
It was very tricky. I mean, it was a pretty high stress moment, particularly when, like, the cars are just zooming out like this, and you had to just write things down very quickly. So
you have a clipboard, so
yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
So, we're trying to be discreet, but we're definitely like, I'm on the exit road. There's only one exit at Sonoma Academy. And I'm just like with a clipboard, just furiously writing down license.
What's he doing? Yeah.
I know. In fact, we got called out a couple of times. Like one parent was like, "What's with the clipboard, buddy?" And I was like,
nothing.
Yeah, I'm just like, we're just doing a transportation survey. Don't worry about it. So, yeah.
So if anybody else has a question, jump in. And otherwise, I have another one.
Mm-hmm.
So how?
Oh, I think we got someone in the chat. Let's see.
Oh, there's a.
Not yet. Super interesting. So thanks. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how is administration support for this project?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, in fact, when did we go to admin? I think we went to admin even before we did the observations. I know it was kind of saying don't make it public, but we just went to the key people, and we were just like, hey, keep this to yourself. We don't want the whole school knowing about it. And like, would you support this? Like, if we find, and we knew we were going to find that people are idling, excessively. We're like, if we find that people are idling excessively and we want to kind of, make our campus idle free, would you support us in that effort? And, it was going to include putting up signs in the parking lot and all that kind of stuff. And they were basically all on board. They were like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Why would we not support you? So yeah, they were super into it.
Yeah, you just kind of gave them a heads up, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And we did, and I'm going to show you a little bit more about what we've done so far. So, and they also were financially behind it. Like, this is not like a super high cost project, but we've spent a couple $100 on signs and some other stuff I'm about to show you, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else? Well, I'll keep going. I got more slides if not. And honestly, jump in at any time, please. Like, this doesn't have to be. There's 4 of us. This does not have to be super formal. All right, I'm gonna keep going though. All right, so that's what we did, and then more of the project so far. So what we also did, we showed that video at an all-school assembly right when we got back from the Christmas break. And then shortly after that, we have advisory periods, which is kind of like homeroom, or, there's like one teacher for a dozen students or so. And then the teachers debriefed the video with the students, and then they handed out these stickers. We made like 400 of these stickers, and it just says, turn the key, be idle free. And now they're showing up on people's water bottles and binders and, wherever, in the hallway and stuff. So we passed those out to just kind of keep spreading the word. We sent out an email to all the parents and the greater SA community. So alumni and board members and just anybody even associated with the school, kind of talking about what the campaign is about. We sent a link to the video so they could watch it. And we also sent resources where they can learn more, which is basically all the research we did. We kept a list of every place that we gathered research, and we sent that to them, which, by the way, I'm going to send all this information to Tor, so you will have access to all this as well. The video, our resources, and the EPA website, the toolkit for making your school idle free. And then finally, we posted this information on both an external website, which is the one you saw, if you could just go to sonomaacademy.org. And then we have an internal website, I'm sure every school does, where students can look at all the research as well if they ever wanted to. And then finally, we put up these signs in the parking lot. We changed the word from children and niños to students and estudiantes. But there's a sign making company here in Sonoma County, and we were just like, hey, we want 16 of these signs. And so they're getting installed currently right now in our parking lot. So they'll be kind of like sitting in the faces of when parents pull up. And so that's what we've done. And now what we're hoping to do next, another idea was we were like, hey, let's put QR codes on those signs. So if anybody pulls up and they see that QR code and they go up with their camera, it'll immediately bring them to that video in case they ever want to watch it again. Or if maybe a stranger pulls up and they just see a QR code, then they can, be informed about what this is all about. Other things that we're going to take more observations and compare the before and after. I've already talked to our communications kind of people, and we've already got it in their calendar for an annual reminder. So we'll send it out at the beginning of every school year that we're an idle free school, because every 4 years it's a completely different group of people and parents. So every year we'll send out a new reminder. And now we're starting to reach out to other schools. We are starting with just Sonoma County schools, and then we're going to kind of go bigger to like the Bay Area, and then who knows where it will go. And we've sent, I don't know, half a dozen emails out. No luck yet, no responses yet, but we're not deterred yet. We're going to keep going. And then other ideas we have, these are kind of wild ideas. I'm not sure if we're going to take these on or not, but just kind of, we'll see where it goes. We were thinking about, we're going to reach out to like local politicians, city, county level, and just see if we can make some city or county-wide policies around idling. Reach out to local businesses and see if they'd put up signs and kind of get behind this movement in their parking lots. So think about like grocery stores and, the mall and Cottingtown, stuff like that. We also, it was really funny. One of the students who was working on this, making the video, the voice of the guy there, he was like, oh, I was in driver's ed school and I was watching this video and they talked about like how you should not idle your car. And I was like, that's a perfect place to like put this information. So they already have like a super small tidbit about not idling and how it's not good for your car. But I really don't think that that's sufficient to like kind of combat the general kind of acceptance of idling in our society. So I think if we could reach out to the DMV people, whoever make those, DMV, the curriculum basically, and see if we could kind of make this more of a drive home this fact more robustly, that would be good. And I used to also maybe going to the DMV. And so not just new drivers, but anybody who's coming through the DMV, see if they could kind of reiterate this message. We were even thinking about like and actually another person suggested this, like you should make little business or informational cards and just put them around on people's windshields. And like, it's like, that's an idea. I mean, I don't want to like, get into a confrontation walking into somebody's yard, putting things on their car, but it is an idea. Like, I really think it's kind of going to have to be at that person to person level for a while before like, I don't know, policy picks it up or whatever. And then, I mean, there's always, I don't know, this is my favorite podcast, How to Save a Planet. And so maybe we could get some like, kind of larger spotlights put on this if a podcast would kind of like feature us and just see what we're doing. And I could not care less about, the fame or whatever, but if it's a mechanism for spreading the word, like that would be cool. So those are some ideas. We'll see which ones we take on. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I just have a bunch of questions here just to kind of as conversation starters. We do not have to hit all these, but what questions do you have? What ideas come to mind? Do you think there are good things and then there are things that could be improved with what I just kind of presented? Like, this is super just in the works, happening right now. And so I'm looking for feedback. Do you think this could happen at your school or anything else? So just, these are conversation starters, but just, I don't know, any thoughts you might have are very much welcome. Yeah, Noah, what's up?
Personally, I find like statistics to be really interesting and kind of like motivational when changing climate habits. So I really love how you like actually went out and like gathered all of that data, because like that to me is super impactful, and it's awesome how you did it. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for that feedback. Yeah, I agree with you. As a math teacher, numbers have meaning to me as well. Yes. Yeah. And I think the other thing about this project too, which is cool, is that like, we're not solving climate change with doing this, but it's extremely actionable. Like the students were able to get out there in the parking lot, take observations, create a video, we're putting up signs, like it's very tangible. And I've heard through the grapevine at my school that like students all over the place are like, they'll be in their car and like, oh, we got to shut it off. We can't idle, like. And so it's definitely having an impact on people. And the other thing with this thing is like, the second you tell people about it, they're like, oh yeah. Like, so it's very contagious. It's very easy to do. It's not like having to install a solar array, or whatever, like, which is, great, but it takes a lot of effort. And like, this is like instant, behavior change, as long as you don't have people who are like resistant to it. So yeah.
Yeah. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, we had a free compost giveaway here in Sebastopol, and there was a line of cars that went, I don't know, a long stretch, and there was a lot of idling. So we found it ironic because we were giving away compost,
oh no,
benefits, and yet we we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think like, how do we incorporate this into that? Because they'll do it again.
Okay.
In a really long line. So yeah, it's a cultural shift a little bit you're trying to improve. What the class, or what did you call that, impact group?
Yeah, it's not graded, it's just kind of pass fail. It's not like it's not an academic or even elective class. It's just a slot in our week. It's called the impact slot, or we call it, which, we're going impact now. And so it's and literally it's just breaking away from academics, and just the only criteria is that a group of students are working with a teacher and they have to do some kind of a project that benefits the community. So I try and do environmentally oriented ones, but there's totally other ones as well. Like sometimes our high schoolers who are more musically gifted, they'll go down to local elementary schools and they'll teach kids to play ukulele, or bring robots down to the local elementary school and show them how to like code them and stuff like that. So it's super open-ended. But yeah, there's other environmental projects as well, like creek cleanups and things like that. So
my takeaway with that is that a lot of other schools could learn from that and maybe implement that space in their schedule for projects like this to happen.
Yeah.
That's what I see as a deficit at a lot of schools. So in lieu of that not being there at a lot of other schools, where do you think a project like this might fit best? Like what subject, what class? Any ideas with that?
Yeah. And and Noah and Kamala, like, please speak up if you see an opportunity at your school. But like, just off the cuff, I see if there's an environmental club at a school. This is not making the video was pretty time intensive, but like, I kind of feel like doing the observations, compiling the data, and just doing a presentation at your school would not be, over the course of a year, like you could definitely do it in a club setting, I feel like. And And then, maybe maybe some kind of a science class that has some kind of like a tangible project associated with it. But I don't know. What about Noah? What do you think, or Kamala? Like, do you see places that you could fit this in at your schools?
Oh, sorry, you go.
Oh, um, I'm just finding myself like feeling really envious that you have this period, like of 1 day a week where you can do stuff like this, because it feels like this is the thing with projects, right? Is like you have all these standards that you have to, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. I guess, yes, I could see. I have like this idea or vision of doing something like, a project that is like you're saying, like an impact, like something that's tangible in the world, like that's related to climate change at the end of like my climate unit. However, it's that with like the amount of time that I have feels like totally overwhelming. And then also like the sort of pedagogical, if that's the right word, with like project-based learning, it's like it really should be originating from the students, right? So then you're like trying to figure out, I don't know. I just have a lot of questions. I mean, this project is amazing. Like what you've done is totally amazing. And it's like, it's really inspiring. And it's also like, oh my God, like how does this fit? How can I possibly do anything remotely like this? Like, I don't know. So there's,
Yeah. Gotcha. Thanks, Kamala.
It might be that you have to create a new elective so you have the space. I know nothing's easy in education anymore, but I know here in Sebastopol they created a class, an eco action class, some years ago that wasn't tied to any standards. It was like a free blank canvas for the teacher to create however he wanted to go with it. And so, but so that I know that's possible, but how hard it is to do, I don't know.
And also just, and no, I know you were going to share out, but Kamala, I would just say that like this does have, you might be able to hit some of those standards and actually they talk about that in the EPA website about, when you're taking observations and, it might be a little bit basic math, but like, you're taking averages, you're doing data analysis with these numbers. So maybe you can tie it into kind of some of the math and science standards, and kind of actually, tie it into your official curriculum if you can. But I totally hear you about the time thing. Like, and that's the perpetual problem with schools. It's like, everyone's got these amazing ideas and there's no time to do it. Right. So, yeah. But no, did you have, sorry, Tor.
No, I'll defer.
Oh, no, go.
Okay. I love the idea of having like sort of like an elective or something like that for like students to follow like a passion project that's going to benefit the community. I feel like I go to West County High or Annalee or whatever you want to call it, in Sebastopol. And I feel like honestly that could work somehow. Like there's all of these seniors who just want to get out of town, go to school, go work or whatever, but you have to take 5 periods of class. So then people who have already fulfilled their credits, which is honestly most people, will take like ceramics again or be a TA when TAs aren't even really that needed. So if there was some sort of class that was more open-ended and you could have this idea, I don't even know, maybe it could be like you have to apply the year before with your idea for your project or anything like that. I feel like
I like it.
That wouldn't even be that hard to, I mean, it probably would be, but definitely like I can see how it could work.
Yeah. And do at LC Allen or at West County, do either those schools have like graduation projects that you need to do, like a senior project? No. Okay. Yeah.
Not right now. They're, they consolidated with El Molino and Annalee this last year. And so El Molino used to have a senior project. And I think they're thinking about if they do that again next year. But West County / Annalee was the place that had the Eco Action class for a good 5 years until the teacher retired. But so I don't know what the current class, how difficult it is to introduce new electives. Usually it's a teacher that gets passionate about a subject and proposes a new version of a class. And so there's a process to that, but it's possible.
And I know that Sonoma Academy is not part of the public school system, but we were thinking about going to SoCo, Sonoma County Office of Education, which is kind of the governing body for all the public schools, and just seeing if they would take this on. So even if there wasn't time for each school to like do this project, like it might come as a top-down thing if they like hearing from us. But that's yet to be seen. So yeah.
Noah, did you have something?
Oh yeah, just I had no idea about that Eco Action class. That's super cool. Do you know who taught it?
It was a teacher named Dave Casey, but he's since retired and moved out of town. I still am in touch with him, but there's probably a couple other current teachers that would love to teach a class like that. I think what happened is they introduced AP Environmental Science after Eco Action started, and then it was thought, well, we have AP Environmental Science. Why do we need an Eco Action class? And unfortunately, the AP part of a environmental science class turns it into a really academic class, and you're like forced to just push through all these tons of information rather than being allowed to pursue a project. So I think there's room for it if you want to talk offline about how to get a class going. But going off, you said something about how to save a planet, and that's one of my favorite podcasts too. Have you reached out to them yet?
No, and honestly, like I think that the types of things that that podcast highlights is kind of a little bit more further along. Like I don't want to reach out to them too quickly. Like what I'd like to do is maybe, obviously getting the word out sooner is better, but I'm thinking like maybe in like a year or something like that. Like maybe after we've influenced more schools, after we do the before and after observations and see if it actually made an impact. So I mean, it's an idea, but I don't want to do it too prematurely either.
Yeah. And you said something about going to SoCo and sort of having it come top down, imposed on schools. And I would caution that because, there's a lot of school districts and schools in Sonoma County that have passed a climate resolution.
Yes.
Thanks to Schools for Climate Action.
Yeah.
And in fact, Annalee/West County passed it a few years ago. They have a climate resolution. The whole district does.
Okay.
Board said, "Oh, that sounds great," and it's quietly stuck on the shelf. No one even knows about it. So, what really needs to happen is to get into the classroom and let the students wrestle with this project and turn it into something real, so that they have a part of it. Because that's the big ingredient. Is for students to feel engaged and empowered to be part of this, addressing this problem. So anyway, just keep that in mind somehow, because you're tuning up this project really nicely and others can learn from what you did, which is why we're sharing. And so it's just to remember. I think I just like the science classes at Elsie Allen, is trying to figure out how this can be part of that would be an interesting challenge to sort of, and that'll then apply to a lot of other schools. Can it be part of a science class?
Right.
But you had a little partnership with somebody teaching animation, and
God, yeah, I know.
Well, that was really cool. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that we are extremely lucky to have like an unbelievably talented digital media teacher, and he was literally going out to the teachers. He just sent a blanket email out. He was like, "Hey, I am totally available if you have any projects that you want to work on where I can kind of like digitalize them." And turn them in, whatever it would be, animating them visually or turning them into some kind of like an audio thing or whatever. He was just like, I'm at your service, basically. I'm willing to help. And so I was like, hey, I got a big thing for you here. And so we started talking about it, and we were like, yes, I think people feel that animated films are less threatening, that it's not going to be, maybe if it wasn't animated, maybe the person, the audience might like the presenter, but might not, or whatever. And this animated thing is like those two characters, the coyote and Sam there, like they can be the stars of future animated films too, if we wanted to make more of them as well. So this could be like a continued thing. And yeah, he basically, like, we gave him the script, we gave him all the pictures, we gave him all the data, and we just said, hey, like, put it together, and he did. But yeah, I realized that is a pretty unique, a unique resource to have at a school. But yes, that's how it got done.
Well, that's, the JC has a number of animation classes too. So I know the instructor. Maybe that's something that their class can team with schools wanting to do something like this if they don't have a teacher like your colleague on staff. Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions on this one? Or
but thanks for tuning in, Zoe and Kamala. Yeah, Zoa. Sorry, I'm sorry. Noah. Gosh, what? Jeez.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you have like those resources that you initially showed. Like, I don't know, if you could share them with me, that would be great. I'm in like the Climate Action Club at West County High. We don't really do anything. It's kind of a joke, but I think we're kind of, I don't know, looking for more things to do. And I have this dream of going in, because we have advisory as well, and there's usually time where we can show like a school-wide video or something. So I have this fantasy about an Earth Day advisory where we could show like a bunch of information and local actions to get involved with. So I mean, it's probably not going to happen in that short of a deadline, but it would be awesome if you could share it, and maybe we could share that video that you made or just some of the information in it.
Totally. Yeah. So I'll tell you what I was going to share with Tor, and then Tor can tell you where he's going to post it so that you and Kamala can access it. So what I was going to do is first just like give Tor the video, give Tor the letter that we sent out to our greater SA community, just about like how we described the campaign and just like encouraging people to stop idling, and then also give them the resources that we used for our research. And then also the EPA website that is the toolkit for how to implement this project. So I'm going to give all that to Tor, and then Tor, do you want to tell us how people can access it?
Well, I have your emails, so I'm trying to reorganize where I've put some of the archives of the Teach Climate group. So, but I'll send out an email with that.
Yeah.
Noah, did I hear you say that there's a climate action club at West County?
Yeah, there's a climate club. Yes.
Very cool. I mean, who's your advisor?
I'm trying to think. We meet in Mr. Frisky's room, who's like I don't have him as a teacher.
You have a meeting space, but okay.
Yeah, we don't really have an advisor. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you're looking for projects to do, basically, Noah?
Yeah. The club is led by two upperclassmen. I'm a sophomore and I don't really know them that well. So I think, I don't know. I'm trying to think. We don't do a ton out of that club, but I think I certainly would hope to plant some seeds with the people who lead it, that maybe we should be doing a little bit more. So we have some more resources to show them. That'd be awesome.
That's cool. Yeah. No, I mean, we'll certainly do everything we can to give you the resources to make it happen. So that sounds, that'd be cool.
And then also, so mostly how I'm involved in climate action is me and my friends, we go into, like I said, the little classrooms for mostly elementary and middle school students. How would you recommend we convey this information to them? Because we're like trying to find the right balance between what's telling kids like how they can change their own habits and what they can tell their parents and kind of what they should. Yeah, anyway, so would you recommend like just giving them the information, like encouraging their parents to stop idling, or like what do you think would be effective?
Yeah. I'll take a stab at it, and Tor, if you want to throw in any thoughts as well, please do. I mean, I think that, gosh, I mean, first of all, I would not just throw a bunch of verbal statistics at them. Obviously, lots of visuals, you know, and if you can do kind of animated things. I would hesitate to like show our video just because it's about like the school where I work at, and they're just like, oh, great, some other school. But something like that, maybe like with animated characters, and asking them questions like, hey, like, you know, what do you think comes out of the exhaust pipes of cars? And, you know, and they'll be like, oh, this. And you're like, so do you think that's, you know, a good thing? You know, is that harmful, or is that beneficial for the environment and for people's health? You know, kind of get a discussion going with that, to really try and draw out of them, because a lot of these things are pretty common sense, and like fifth graders, they'll figure it out, right? Like this is not rocket science here. And then, yeah, I think what you said about like them going back and telling their parents is a great idea. And then maybe even giving them like a little sticker or something like that. In fact, one thing I would not be hesitant to have other people replicate is like the stickers and the signs that go up in the parking lot. Like we did that work already. I would happily share that stuff with anybody, and you can get them printed out. Like we got 400 stickers printed for, I don't know, like maybe $70 or something like that. But like, you know, everybody loves a little sticker, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So, you know, yeah. So I'd say like visuals, engage them in conversation, have them talk to their parents, and then, you know, give them a little like goodie bag to go kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. We've been like trying to figure out a way to sort of like incentivize sustainability for students, but it's hard because we don't want to like, you know, give away like just more
stuff.
Exactly. But I think stickers are nice because you can stick them on stuff and make you want to keep that stuff around and reuse it. So yeah, I'll definitely look into that. Thank you. Yeah. And maybe another thing I'll send a tour is like the sticker stuff and the sign thing as well. So yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I know I was working with some teachers on a solar project, and I promised them some sort of solar ambassador recognition. So the idea of being an ambassador, a climate ambassador or something like that, once they become, you know, aware and educate others, that's all what you're trying to encourage them to do. Maybe figure out a way to sort of integrate that into the lesson. You know, I'm thinking about local elementary schools like Parkside or something. Is somehow to get, like Dan was saying, I was like, don't. This is what I observed in your video, Dan. I just became aware. It wasn't like a big backgrounder on global warming or climate change. I don't know if did they say that at all, the words climate change?
No, you know, we didn't. I mean, we talked about how emissions are harmful for the climate, and we did talk about like how they contribute greenhouse gases, which we already have too much of. I think that was kind of the extent of it.
Without saying climate change or global warming, you kind of implied it. Yeah, so I don't know. Well, anyway, I guess it's Noah, do you talk about climate change and global warming with, I mean, I know you guys have presented down to kindergarten and all ages, so how responsive are those ages and their teachers when you talk with them?
There was a huge gap, honestly, just between kindergarten and first grade. Like, I feel like kindergartners, like, they don't really know what's going on, so our presentation to them had to just be super short. And yeah, but honestly, kids are really able, in my opinion, to sort of emotionally feel when you show them pictures of animals and like natural disasters, and then give them ways how they can do their own part. Like they really take that in, and just, I guess, feel it a little more emotionally than older people do. And like even just like from elementary to middle schoolers, you can just tell that the amount of like caring and like emotionally connecting to it is a lot different. But yeah, we try to say climate crisis, climate change, explain the difference between global warming, and really use that. But what we really try to do is bring all of the different points we bring up back to this idea of consumption, because our whole idea is that all of everything wrong in the climate crisis relates back to overconsumption. So I would just, like, my recommendation, and you don't have to do this at all, but maybe like say the words like consumption, like when the cartoon characters were talking about like, oh, if the best thing you can do is buy an electric car, like maybe elaborate on that and say like, start to phase out, and next time you buy a car, get electric, or try to explore, I don't know, just like stressing consumption and spotlighting the idea of like overconsumption. I feel like is a really good way to kind of just, I don't know, all around it's a good idea.
Good call. No, I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah. This is good stuff. So
I have a question both for Kamala and for Noah. If my impact group and that digital media teacher was able to make kind of a generalized video that didn't really talk about Sonoma Academy, but just talked about idling and how if you stop it, that you're, helping people breathe healthier air and not produce emissions. And it's something so that like Noah, that you could present to like in your presentations to elementary schools, and anybody could use at any school. Would that be helpful if we made kind of a general video? So it's not tied to Sonoma Academy in any way?
Yeah, I think that would be great. I don't know if it would be possible to do like another general video and then like a short general video, because we usually have very little time, so we're just trying to like shove all the information in Kit Tats. But I think that'd be really great.
Yeah. How short are you talking? Like 3 minutes, or like what I don't know, what would be an optimal video time?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, like 2-3 minutes. And then, or like, could be like a little preview one that's just like a little bit of it, and then one that's like more full on 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever minutes. But yeah, I think short is great, but obviously you have to do what you have to do to get all that information.
Yeah. Right. But I mean, like, when we were watching that video, it's wonderful and everything, but like 7.5 minutes, like people are dropping off, I feel like, attention wise, if they're not super engaged. So short is good just for, just in general.
Yeah. The group Kiss the Ground has a number of short videos that pack a lot of information in, graphics and stuff within 3 minutes.
Okay.
And
what was that called?
Kiss the Ground. They talk mostly about healthy soil and stuff, but I was amazed in 1 minute they have an introduction about the background of history, why we are producing so much emissions and why there's an issue now. In 1 minute they did that, and then they segued to the solution. So I could share that with you, Dan, if you want to look at others, but I look at that and go, wow, they just explained climate change in 1.5 minutes, Now we can go move on to working on solutions. So I guess it's all that to say is, 2-3 minutes is probably a good target.
Cool. Yep. Nice.
Yeah. And I'll just say, I mean, just even that video that you showed us was, I was like, maybe I should show this to my students. Like, not even as here's a project that other students did, and maybe we want to do a project, but like it was super informative and it changed my not opinion, but just awareness. Like you know, I haven't thought about idling like very much, you know? And so I'm like, oh, like, yeah, that's a super easy thing to do. And it actually has a big impact. So I think you guys did what you set out to do with that video for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well,
I could see where Kamala's class, you know, if you didn't have the task of making the video, because I know that took a bit of time.
Yeah.
But if their task would be to go data collect, you know, and measure how long people are idling, and then process and collect and process that data to come up with some analysis of their idling, and then an education campaign, it might fit within a science class, time constraints, maybe. So
yeah, no, I think it's definitely possible. I mean, the thing I've been thinking about, and with a similar, like probably a similar like outline is composting, you know, like at the school, because our school doesn't, I mean, we don't even recycle. So like, what, and I don't know that recycling has a whole lot of impact anyways, because it sounds like a lot of recycling doesn't actually get recycled. But I'm like, composting, like that's something we could definitely do, and we could calculate, how much greenhouse gases we would save by composting. And, so that's a project that I've been thinking about. That would be a similar process, of collecting data and then figuring out what is the solution? Like, how do we actually do that?
Yeah, I would, it reminds me, I don't know if either of you have heard of the project Drawdown, drawdown.org. It's a group in the Bay Area that analyzed the top 100 solutions to reversing global warming. And it was really enlightening to see how many different things there were, and it wasn't all about solar panels. But composting is one of the solutions, and it gives this worldwide analysis of if we maximized composting, how much greenhouse gases we would sequester and so forth. And so I'll share that resource, and it begs that I think it was a elementary school in Kenwood that Sheila Morrissey, is that her last name?
Yeah, I know her. Yeah, she's been doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say she did with her class. They looked at the kids looked at like the top 10 drawdown solutions, and then they picked one by process of elimination, and it turned out to be composting. And then they presented to the school board to say, can we adopt this at our school, and so on. So they went through a lot of different, interviewed people like, how would we do this, and develop a plan. She's pretty savvy with integrating all these different things into one single class, and it's an elementary school class where she teaches all the subjects. But all that to say, it's a good project, because there's a new law also that just got implemented that requires a higher degree of composting our organics from stores and wherever it's coming from. So I don't remember all the details, but it's just went into effect in January. So that'd be something to tie in as well. I know we can keep talking, and I will share this, is that last summer I was working with a couple of schools. We wanted to create like this new curriculum or a lesson that basically turns students into solutions journalists. So they learn how to write a short article about a climate solution. And the idea was to look in that archive of resources on Project Drawdown and pick a subject that they thought was interesting. And there's all kinds of things. There's offshore wind turbines and bicycling and composting and electric cars. And then find a local person or organization working on that solution, and then maybe interview somebody and turn out a new article, and sort of, it's a little different than writing an essay. It's writing a journalistic article. And so the idea is to focus on positive solutions, but also educate others in the process. So we've been piloting it with a couple of different schools, and it's interesting. One school said, well, we're going to require all the students to do an interview somebody. And that became a big, mental block, because it was like, what, you want me to cold call somebody and interview them? So if you do that, you got to teach students how to contact someone and how to interview them and set up questions. But anyway, I'll plan on sharing more about that at a later date, but that's something that I'm trying out with a bunch of environmental science teachers right now too, just to see if it's something and they're like, that's English lesson. But, I think if students learn how to learn about a subject and then write about it in a positive way they become storytellers, then we all need good stories. So anyway.
That sounds great. I'd love to see those resources. Because writing in all subject areas is super important. So, yeah, that sounds great. I have used Project Drawdown. I've been using like their videos. Oh yeah. But I want them to have like more resources about just like how to, I don't know. They're not really geared. It's not really like a education. I don't know. They're not really geared towards, as far as I can tell. Besides those videos, they're geared towards sort of the general public as opposed to school, students. So yeah. Anyway, I'd love to hear, any that kind of stuff that people are doing I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, the Drawdown, I think you're referring to like the Climate 101 series of videos.
Yeah, those are the ones. Yeah.
And there's a lot of graphs and stuff that sometimes you go, oh my goodness. But I think what I was trying to take, because it's overwhelming bit of information and sometimes it's a little abstract, but this way where you try to make it personal and local, and figure out some of the numbers that they're presenting, sort of decipher that kind of thing, break it down a little bit. So I'll share what we're doing with the Climate Solvers thing, and it might be over the next few months, but I'll share that so you have an idea. But I think Drawdown is, sometimes you can look at it and go, it's like, whoa, this is still too abstract and big. But what it did for me was it showed how there's so many things are interconnected, and that there are so many things that are part of the solution and to dealing with it, which also it highlights the fact there's not just one solution. So this idling project is one of the, is piece of the puzzle. So it's important to work on all of it. So
yeah, I'm sorry, I just cut you off. Daniel, sorry. That's sort of what I was thinking about with Project Drawdown right, there's all these solutions. And so if you're trying to do a project with students, you want them to have agency, right? You want them to have ownership over it, and you want them to come up with the project, right? But on the other hand, it's like the solutions are the solutions. So it's like the idea of having like what you just described that Sheila did, that sort of like a smorgasbord of like, okay, here's 10 solutions. Like, let's pick, one, including the idling, like that's super awesome. And the, and composting and like whatever the other things that are actually feasible for students to do a project around. And then you're like, okay, here's the 10, like, each group is going to pick one of these, or I don't know, like, I'm just trying to imagine like how to do it in my context, and yeah, anyway, so I'm just like thinking aloud.
Well, Dan, if I may respond to that, what I've also found is that there's sort of this discussion about mitigating, or in other words, reducing emissions via or sequestering emissions so that, the temperature of global warming temperatures will start to slow and it'll somehow reverse the big problem, which is a slow response thing. And it's sort of abstract and future. But then you look at all the impacts that are hitting us right now, and most dramatically, it's having to deal with wildfires every year here. 6 years ago, that wasn't a thing. And I have articles that show there's a big part of this is due to climate change. And so then you start talking about adaptation, like, okay, how do we become better prepared to living with the, higher risk of wildfire going forward? What do we do to help address that? And at the same time, so which of these drawdown solutions help do that? And also help with climate change. So I guess the thing that I'm also learning, I learned this thing, it was a term called multi-solving. So if you come up with a solution, if it solves multiple problems, then that's a really good solution. So for example, I guess, like if you decided to say, okay, we're going to increase bike paths to school. So, and if you say, well, that's one reason is because it's going to reduce emissions. The other reason is you get more exercise and all these other benefits of bicycling that don't have to do with climate change. So that, I think that's one way to sort of sort through some of the drawdown solutions is like sort of I analyze them to see how much direct local benefits they provide and what are they other than the climate reasons, and sort through those things. Because I mean, I'm discussing out here in Sebastopol, there's a whole groups trying to be better prepared for when the power goes out with the next wildfire. And they're talking about, using walkie-talkies and things like that. And there's a lot of people buying generators for their houses and things like that. So my mind there is, well, okay, why don't we invest in some renewable energy sources to have backup power than instead of generators. I'm rambling here, but the whole idea is really sort of thinking about what sort of local impacts of climate change they're feeling, and then also which of these solutions provide multiple benefits locally. Those become more attractive and more real to your students and anyone really. So, Dan, did you have I cut you off before.
No, it's totally fine. Yeah. Hey, Kamal, have you, for your videos that you were talking about that you were showing, have you heard of Our Climate, Our Future?
That sounds familiar. And I think I did something with that a few years ago. It's all like a blur because of last year, but I think, and I also haven't taught earth science for a few years. But I think I did do something with that. There a video, and they have like there's like a website and stuff. Is that
right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's sounding familiar.
Yeah. I bring it up because they have a whole website, and it is geared towards students and more kind of like high school, junior high level. And they have, I think it's 10 videos on their websites, and it explains a lot about climate change, and it breaks it down into like chapters, like here's talk about greenhouse effect, and then here's like they really break it down each one. And that not only do they have that, but they also have case studies of people being affected, different people being affected around. I'm not sure if it's the world, but it's definitely the United States. Like they talk about how people in California are being affected versus like over in Florida with sea level rise, and then Colorado, and the different places. So if you can personalize it. And what I actually did with this impact time previously was I had groups, and they got like, I let them choose which case study they wanted to do, and then they had to share out about that. And it was usually the case studies were of other teenagers about their age. So it was more personal. And then they also, and this is applicable both to Our Climate, Our Future, but also the Drawdown. But yeah, letting the students, you said you talked about autonomy, letting them choose which solution to research is super, empowering to give them just like, hey, like if you do Drawdown, here's 100 different solutions. Like tell me, pick it. And in fact, I will, I've done that with students as well. And then I kind of had a criteria that I asked them to do. And it was like, what's the name of the solution? Give me the 3-sentence summary. How many gigatons of carbon would it, save if this was fully implemented? And then, like one other interesting fact you found, because they have a pretty nice short summaries of those solutions on Drawdown. Anyways, I don't mean to just ramble on if you're already familiar with the Drawdown.
No, that sounds great, because it's like what you guys are talking about is like what I've been struggling with the Drawdown, and it's it's like totally a function of like me not having enough time to like prep and figure stuff out. Right. But is like I'm like looking at the Drawdown website and I'm like, what do I do with this? And so send me that stuff. I kind of like can't believe that there isn't more accessible climate education. Like I have done a lot of Googling and a lot of trying to find like, okay, here's like this really like concise like way to teach climate solutions like that. I haven't, because I mean, I have a lot to teach, and so it's like to try to figure out, I don't know, like it just, I kind of can't believe that doesn't exist. Yeah. Like, why doesn't that exist?
I think it does. Yeah.
It does. What, like, so what, like, where, like, what is that?
I think the Our Climate, Our Future is a start, like what I said
with
videos and whatnot. And yeah, again, it's very geared towards teenagers and it's very specific, like the different things. Again, I am not a science teacher. I have not used it as like an entire curriculum, but just for like getting like the summary of like these different aspects of climate change. I felt like Our Climate, Our Future did a pretty good job.
Okay, I'll check that out again for sure.
Yeah, but you're right. There is not a single concise, source right now. And even Drawdown, they have a little offshoot called Drawdown Learn, or had or did, so they're keep trying, but I think at one point they said, we're not, curriculum writers. But we'll sort of connect teachers with each other. And so that's kind of what we're doing here, because they haven't created an exact, concise curriculum. They're trying, but they're also making it for multiple audiences. So, we'll just keep trying, because I think if you look at the K-12 climate standards, it's really that by the time you graduate high school, you're supposed to know that, that the temperatures are rising or something. It's not a lot of depth. I'm not impressed with the K-12 climate science standards. So anyway, all right, Noah, you're going to check out, and I'll follow up with what Dan shares and so forth. So thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess we can wrap up too, but
thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Bye. Thank you guys. I've been grappling with this and struggling with it and just feeling like I don't have the time to like figure it out basically. And I did like 1 year, I actually worked with North Bay Organizing Project, because I was like, this is a local organization that can, that's doing activism, and they have like I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but they have, here, I'll put my camera on. They have a Rights of Mother Earth like campaign. And so I was trying to figure something out with that, and I don't know, we never fleshed it out. It didn't work out that well. And, I really struggle with my students with, like agency, like at all. Like they do not have like a sense of agency in sort of like any way in their lives, like, including school. And so, this just feels super challenging because like at this point in the year right now, like what I've done with climate is just depressing. Like I have not, like I've, cause you do have to learn the science of it, right? So like, be like, well, what is climate change? What is global warming? And so that's what the standards are. And then, and then it's like, okay, so now like, where do I bring them in terms of solutions? And I just don't have a clear plan for that. Right. So yeah.
And never
anyway.
Time.
Yeah.
But I think like I was working with a 8th grade teacher somewhere in the last year or two, and she sort of, it was finding, so you have this much space for teaching about climate change in the standards. And if you just say, well, okay, I'm going to shrink the backgrounder down, which I call all the study about all the impacts and stuff, and then give more time to climate solutions, might be the way to go. Now, there's no tidy package just yet for your class, but I think things are evolving, and that might be the way to go. It's just like, hey, nobody's looking. I'm not going to teach it exactly like the textbook. I'm going to shorten down what's in the textbook and give more time to climate solutions. And I'll share this. There's a young teacher who works for Sonoma Water now that's tasked with doing some climate stuff with high schools, Christine Byrne, and she was sharing with me that when she goes, does guest presentations, and she was sharing me that when the students like pay attention when she starts talking about the justice issues, the environmental justice, climate justice, etc., they somehow sit up and go, let's talk, but I haven't been, watched her discussion. She just shared that was something they really start tuned into. And so where one takes that conversation, I think is sort of you address that because they probably understand that those issues, and then start talking about how some, sharing communities that are doing something to improve that. So that's just a very loose sort of strategy, but the thing is to figure out, I don't have a magic crystal ball on how to figure out, like sit down with you and say, let's map this out. But hopefully we can keep sharing a little bit, and it's sort of, between now and the end of the school year, you still have a couple months, so it's, I guess it's sort of taking your current students to the finish line with a little hope. That's a good goal, but so anyway.
Yeah, those are good insights. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is like shortening the front, the impacts, because it's, we kind of like, people kind of more and more know those, right? Just without, learning, without having to learn them. And then, but yeah, and then focusing on the solutions. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. This was helpful, and yeah, great project, Dan.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in and listening. Yeah.
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 Dan. All right. Well, I'll follow up with what Dan shares with me, and we'll stay in touch.
Cool. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Bye.